Watch highlights from Turning Point, America First 2024. Included are addresses by Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, Ben Carson, and some new voices you might not have heard from before.
A secure Panama Canal is crucial for U.S. commerce and rapid deployment of the Navy from the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific. It's an incredible thing, and drastically cut shipping times down to U.S. ports by days and even weeks. The United States is the #1 user of the Panama Canal, with over 72% of all transits heading to or from U.S. ports. Think of that. So we built it. We're the ones that use it. They gave it away. Considered one of the one of the great wonders of the world. The Panama Canal opened for business 110 years ago and was built at huge cost to the United States, and it really is big when you consider the lives and the treasure, the equivalent of $1.2 trillion today. You don't hear those numbers. 38,000 American men, almost all men, they went there to be construction workers and dig. They were diggers, and they were brave. 38,000 men died from infected mosquitoes in the jungles of Panama during the construction period. Think of that. We lost 38,000 men. Teddy Roosevelt was president of the United States at the time of its building and understood the strength of naval power and trade. When President Jimmy Carter foolishly gave it away for $1. During his term in office, it was solely for Panama to manage and not for China or any other country to manage. You see what's going on there? China.
So legacy media is obviously collapsing, and I just think we should take a moment of silence, really, to reflect inwardly at the joy. Like, there are moments, a child is born for the first time, your first kiss, asking the woman you love to marry you, MSNBC and CNN dying, like, they're all kind of connected. So we should, before we move on to, like, what's next, we should just appreciate how great that is. And they're not dying, they committed suicide through lying, which is, by the way, suicidal. If you're in the trust business and you can't stop lying, you've killed yourself. But what comes next? Well, I think what we have. I mean, I think that X is an amazing thing, There are probably downsides, but I think the massive upside is it's basically uncensored. I think podcasts are amazing. I can't even believe it's happening. I worked in television where we thought no one would pay attention for more than 4.5 minutes, and then we had to go sell prostate cures or gold scams, and it turns out people wanted like 3 hours. I mean, what? There's no greater compliment you can pay a nation, a citizenry, that they want information and understanding so badly they will listen for 3 hours. That's incredible. It makes me feel great about America, grateful to Joe Rogan for basically creating the genre. When everyone laughed at him, including me, I never said it to his face, but I was like, Joe Rogan, really? He thinks people are going to listen for 3 hours? Amazing. So I think we're in a great place, and I think that we should, instead of thinking of new forms of media, we should defend the ones we have, which are all based on free speech. And you're going to hear people say in the coming months and years, we can't have speech this free because it's a danger. It offends people, it causes violence. That's a lie. Violence and speech are not the same. I can offend you, that's different from shooting you. Do not accept any attempt to take away your birthright, something that God gave you, and a government's job is to protect, which is your absolute right to say what you think is true, period. And that is worth defending above all things. And there are going to be people you think you're allies. The deception is profound. It's profound. We were promised profound deception, and we're getting it. It's not simple deception. It's not, drink Bud Light because some dude dressed as a schoolgirl. That's the obvious deception. He's not a schoolgirl. He's a dude. That's not really deception. That's like make-believe. It's a joke. Deep deception is an actual threat. and it plays upon your best qualities, your compassion. That's what happened during COVID. Good people obey. Do you love your grandparents? Then you'll obey. Well, of course, all good people love their grandparents. They respect the elderly. So they preyed upon your best qualities. They leveraged your decency against you. That's deception. And you're going to see that with speech. You're going to see this is hate. And some of it may, in fact, be hateful. But it's still your birthright to express what you believe, even if other people don't like it. You know that, like, normal people don't want crime and homelessness and drugs and open borders. It doesn't matter what they look like or where they're from. Nobody wants that. No normal person wants that. I remember when I lived in Washington, an actual conversation I had at an actual dinner party that if you put it on film in the middle of a movie, people would be like, that's just not believable, that never happened, but it actually happened. I was in the middle of getting lectured in a very polite way by one of my neighbors who was a very nice person, and she said to me, you know, I have a lot of problems with your views on immigration. Frankly, I don't think you're a racist. I just want to be clear, she's my neighbor. I don't think you're a racist. But basically, she said, you're a racist. Okay, so I was trying to, like, defend. Well, actually, I think countries need borders. I'm trying to be polite. 15 minutes later, she goes, my housekeeper loves you. Would you sign something for her? I was like, your housekeeper from Belgium? No, from El Salvador. Oh, right. So I'm such a nice person. I was like trying to be a Christian. I didn't say, so you think I'm a racist, but your Salvadoran housekeeper's like fully on board with my racist program? Tell me how that works. And then you realize it's not just her Salvadoran housekeeper, it's every Salvadoran housekeeper, actually, in the world. There's not a liberal one. Not one. If you can find a liberal Salvadoran housekeeper, call me. I don't believe you. There's not liberal. You know, whatever you think, they're just not liberal. And a lot of America's not liberal in the way that they envision it. They're just not. They think if you break the law, you should be punished. They don't think it's cool to have somebody ODing on fentanyl right outside your house. By the way, they'd like to own things. They don't think that, like, the Uber economy is the real economy. They'd like to have a little house somewhere and own a car. They think credit card debt is bad, and they're upset about it, and they talk about it.
I'll
they're
put
right.
a bow on it by sharing with you all some of the things that I've learned over the past few years that have really helped me stand tall and be secure in this fight. First and foremost, it's to trust God's calling for you. This is never, please hear me when I say this is never where I saw myself. This is never what I wanted to do. This is never what I prepared for, or so I thought. I was in dental school after college. But I was really, really wrong in assuming that that's how God works, that he calls those who are already prepared, because that's not what he does at all. He prepares those who he calls. And if he brings you to something, he will certainly bring you through it. Just like he did with Esther, who before she was brought before the king, which reminds me of that verse, Esther 4:14. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with it, or at least the last part of it, right? For such a time as this. But the front half of that verse is just as timely, given our political and cultural climate. Mordecai, he's speaking to Esther, and he tells her, for if you remain silent, you and your father's family will perish. Understand that applies to every single person in this room right now. We were not saved to be silent. So be bold. Say the controversial thing. Call out injustice when you see it, and never, ever apologize for speaking the truth. I won't stand up here and lie to you and tell you that you won't get pushback, because it's almost certain that you will. But what I will tell you to do is take it on the chin. That's probably the number one question I get asked, especially from young people. They say to me, how are you able to deal with the pushback and with the negativity? And my response is easily. It's easy to say the things that I'm saying. I haven't said anything that is overly profound or anything that makes me wise. I literally have a platform for saying there are two sexes, and you can't change your sex. And each sex is deserving of equal opportunity, of privacy, and of safety. That's it. And with that, it will inevitably, come with baseless name-calling and petty personal attacks, but that should only reaffirm your position and encourage you to speak louder. So let them call you names. It speaks more to their own insecurities than it does about you. Although I firmly believe that cancel culture is fading.
It all starts with gratitude. Now, some of you guys might know more of my story than others, but for those who don't, I did not have the most conventional or stable upbringing. It was turbulent, it was confusing, it was often dangerous for a young child. One of my brothers passed away at a very young age. Another brother of mine is a diagnosed schizophrenic. He was homeless for many years with me as his primary contact. Parents are divorced. I emancipated myself at 15 years old, if that tells you anything about what I went through. But as a child, I constantly asked myself, why me? Like, why is this going on? And those feelings of helplessness and anger were loud. But at 14 years old, and I'll never forget this, my mom handed me a journal, and she told me to write down 10 things every single day that I was grateful for. And these are like the bare essentials, you know, a home, a roof over my head, food on the table, a mom who loved me. And as silly as that sounds, and even when I'm saying, I'm like, oh my God, that was so silly what I was doing, it was transformative. My outlook completely changed, and suddenly the world as a teenager seemed a lot less dark. Because gratitude literally rewires your brain to focus on goodness and joy. That is scientific. It builds resilience in the process. It shifts your perspective, helping you navigate even the most chaotic of times, like we are living in literally every single day. It's getting a lot better, but it's been crazy. And as Americans, we have even more reason to be grateful. And yes, we fight for change. And yes, there are challenges that we will face, but we still live in the freest nation on earth. A place that millions of people from around the world dream of coming to. Our daily struggles are still somebody's dream life. There are people around the world, especially women, who would literally kill to be in this room with us, who would kill for the opportunity to be able to speak publicly about their values. And for me, that overwhelming sense of gratitude, that matters more than the daily squabbles that we see online, the social media slanders, the debates, the hit pieces, whatever they throw at us. That matters more. That gratitude is what gives me the peace and the perspective, and more importantly, the strength to focus on what actually matters. But not only those three things, this also gives me my purpose, which in my life is my second key to resilience. Because when you are driven by something that is bigger than yourself, these daily wins and losses matter less. You will not find this type of purpose in likes or clicks or viral moments. Those will not sustain you. I learned that the hard way. For me, purpose is waking up every single day with the goal of making the world a little more sane, to empower every single one of my viewers to feel a little bit more confident in their values, to leave a lasting legacy. That's what I think about every single day. It is the determination to one day be able to tell my future children that I stood firm in my beliefs, that I was not bullied into silence, that I fought to make the world better, and that I did it joyfully, that I showed up on my show every single day joyfully because it mattered.
But we have those who want to fundamentally change us into something else. And they are spending their time trying to divide us. You know, one of the main tactics of socialists is to create class warfare. Have you noticed that? Rich people are evil, they try to tell you. Guess what? If there were no rich people, we wouldn't have this beautiful convention center. We wouldn't have shopping centers, universities, libraries, all kinds of things. It's fine to be rich. Just make sure that you're willing to do good things with your money and share it a little bit. And America has always been at the top of the list in terms of people who are willing to do that.